back to the game-changingest podcast that ever changed the game, the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am John, my co-host is Andy, and we're getting you ready for Survivor Game Changers. As usual, we're going to go through the entire cast. We'll give you a preview of what's to come this season. So Andy, are you ready for the dawn of the era of Sierra Dawn?
I've been ready. I was ready for like 14 episodes for it to happen, so I'm really excited that she's getting more.
Yeah, I was ready week by week in Worlds Apart, and it just never dawned. And yet, we're running that back.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anybody could change the game, I think it's the person who steadfastly refused to change the game. When you cast a Sierra Dawn Thomas, it's pretty hard for us to talk about anything else.
Exactly. How is that not front of mind? She's a fan favorite, don't you know?
Apparently. Maybe we're not starting with the highlights. And, I do think like when, the cast was first announced by, Redmond, not by the show, people are all like focusing on the Sierra Dawns of it all. But, I think that's, maybe burying the lead. So what do you feel about this season coming up?
Right. I was just going to say, like, it's funny that we led with that because that's what a lot of this off season was people going, oh my God, really? So-and-so is not a game changer. It was mostly Sierra. Let's be real. Like why is this person cast? Why is this person cast? And I think that's finally dying down now because I think people are finally realizing like, oh, wait a minute. Let's look at all the great things that this season is potentially bringing us. Like we're focused so much on like the 25% of the cast that you're just going to roll your eyes at, rather than the, solid 50-ish% of the cast that you're kind of happy is back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over 50. I'm pretty psyched. And, the more we've been looking at it, and we've started over on a website doing lots of, pre-game coverage. Frankly, more than we planned on doing.
Let's be real. It's because we didn't have to do it.
Yeah, well, that said, you and I have been putting in more work about these than necessarily we thought.
We really have.
But, it's just, I think this might be a better cast than like Cambodia in some ways, at least in terms of like star power. And that's almost just by the nature of Game Changers, right? I mean, for the most part, they couldn't be stars, for, second chances because they were, by design was people who failed their first time around. The star power for that season came more from the recent season. But this, these are some heavy hitters, some headliners, some people I'm pretty psyched to see on my television again.
Yeah, it's got the, highest of highs with your big time winners and your huge Survivor legends that are here. There's multiple Survivor Hall of Famers that are here. And then you got, the throw-ins. That's what I'm saying is I'm not going to get too upset about the throw-ins because we've got some legit Survivor Hall of Fame players that are coming back again. And it's not like the people that are back for the 7th and 8th times. It's not Rupert again, although two of them are back for a 4th time. Whatever. I'm fine with that. It's just focus on the fact that we're getting some really good returnees more than you focus on the ones that you're not excited about.
Yeah. And best case scenario is like those also rans, either A, good, there actually is unrealized potential and they show us like many a returnee has in the past, or B, they're the filler and we get to concentrate on all these awesome people. So
that's the benefit of having these people that weren't really stars before is if they don't give you anything new this time, they're just not going to get featured again and you get more time with the people that you came to see.
Yeah, I mean, and the worry is that, they team up and take off people, but I think there's more people that I'm psyched about than there are that they're not. So I'm pretty excited about the season. I also think that, the extended, time off, that not as long as the summer season, but longer, between the two seasons that we usually get. I think it's, let Survivor be gone long enough for me to really get amped up for it.
Yeah. The absence makes the heart grow fonder thing.
Yeah. So, we should get into it, huh?
Let's do it. Let's dive right in. We'll go by tribe, we'll go alphabetically. So let's start with Nuku tribe, because the tribes are Nuku and Mana. No one will remember that after 2 episodes. It won't matter.
It won't matter at all after 2 episodes.
Yeah, or before 2 episodes. First one up, Andrea.
Yeah, this is an example. I think she's a player that I'm pretty excited to see. And she's instructive both ways. She's somebody that I think, proved in Caramoan that she could be a good presence on TV. But heading into Caramoan, Andrea was the Sierra Dawn Thomas or the Haley. Like, really? Her? So And then she became something. So I think it's instructive to not get too worried about people that maybe haven't earned the title Game Changer, for instance. And I think that's so much part of this, right? We as, Survivor super fans, we come up with these concepts in our head and then we like cast and try to really stick to the theme. It's just a name, man.
I mean, it really is. Like when you look back at like brains versus brawn versus beauty, and then you go, oh yeah, but so-and-so shouldn't have been on that tribe. Yeah, who cares? When you go back and think about the season afterwards, are you really concerned that, oh god, Garrett was on the brains tribe and Cagayan, it totally ruined the season for me?
Well, we don't even call it brains versus brawn versus beauty. We just call it Cagayan.
Exactly.
I mean, this one we'll probably call Game Changers, even though it actually is also subtitled Mamanuca Islands or whatever.
Mamanuca Islands. Come on, that's a fun one to say.
Yeah, I know. I've never actually heard it out loud. Now I really want to say it all the time. Hopefully that's what this one will become in retrospect. Just like, we probably call it Micronesia more than we call it Fans versus Favorites. So, let me try that again. Mamanuca.
You threw in one more ma in there. It's Mamanuca.
Mamanuca. Oh, I like it. I like that a lot. Oh, wait. Is that why they're called Nuku?
Sure, probably.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, Andrea, I was actually, I was a big believer in her heading into Caramoan, but not because of anything she did in Redemption Island. It was because of the past history of the random pretty girl getting thrown in and doing well. That's why I picked her for our very first fantasy league, and I was there, but it turned out. Now I'm actually excited to see her based on what she did in Caramoan. So I think she is somebody that I think was destined to come back, and I think this is a good mix for her.
Yeah, I think she's someone that she showed she had a personality in that game. She took her L and she took it, with a little laugh. It's good. She had a good spirit about her. She had some strategy going on in her game. She definitely came into that game with a huge pregame alliance with some people, but that blew up on the very first vote and she still managed to recover. I like her chances. I kind of feel like once you get close to the end, she's maybe not that threatening to take to the final tribal council. And then once you get there, you realize I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah, I think the big challenge for her will just be what level of calm she can play with. So her first time around, she was probably far too calm, as a lot of people were that season, just like, it'll work out. And then I think in Caramoan, probably, a year of being called nothing but a Rob Zombie made her really feel like she had to do stuff. And frankly, having her head on the chopping block at the very first vote probably doesn't make you very comfortable either. She was a little too paranoid, a little too spastic. I think that, a third time around, that probably takes care of itself. If she can take care of that, then I think she has the tools to be a legit contender, in big part because there's been enough time since Caramoan that it seems like very few people remember that, she played a strong game there.
Yeah, and that's gonna come up again later about someone else on her season.
Yeah, so it's just like, I don't think anybody's gunning for her. So if she, can not project a nervous energy, I think she'll have plenty of options that people would want to work with her because I don't see her as somebody you look at as a detriment to, a tribe, to your plans. And then, I think she could go well. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to her.
Yeah, I think she doesn't give off that vibe that she's really conniving or sneaky, but I think she can be. And I think that people just would be more willing to trust her because she seems very likable. She seems like she's going to be your loyal ally. And I don't think that she always is necessarily, but she can play that role very well. So I think she should do well in this group.
Yeah, and just kind of getting back to the larger thing of the season we were talking about, how this is, fairly star-laden. Yeah, in Caramoan, she ended up being one of the stars because that was a pretty motley assembly of returnees. Here, I don't know, she might be like the 10th or 11th person I'm most excited to see. So.
Right, yeah, she's mid-tier, which is probably something that works in her favor here.
Yes, it does. Well, or it could possibly, yeah.
And now let's jump to the lower tier and talk about Brad. Brad was pre-merge in Blood versus Water. His strategy last time, I do specifically remember us saying like, look, this is not something we're super thrilled about endorsing, but it's not an unreasonable strategy for a player like him. He basically aligned with all the big, strong men, thinking that that would shield him and he could go far, which, for a Brad in that era of the game was not necessarily a bad strategy, as disappointing as it might have been to us as fans.
Yeah, I mean, I and then he, flopped around a bit and was probably too much, but he was also taking the most heat that season, and, the whole blood versus water thing changed dynamics. My feeling at the time was that his strategy was alright, his problem was him. So it'll be interesting to see if that will still be the case, He just rubbed people the wrong way, and obviously some of that's always going to be the case when you are the person perceived to be calling shots in a season where, you're taking out loved ones, and they get to, and the people you vote out get to snipe back at you. At Redemption Island. So he doesn't really have to deal with those issues this time around, so maybe it'll be okay.
Yeah, I think it actually probably helps him that he got clowned last time by the edit. Like a little dodo music kind of makes people more fine with aligning with him, and they'll probably think he's easier to beat because of that. I'm not really convinced he's an easy goat. Like, I don't think it's easy for him to get to the end and win, but I could see him potentially winning.
Yeah, no, if people might think that they can drag him because, he didn't, or I should say, drag him to the end because he's been dragged plenty in Survivor. I don't think he's gonna be a guy that's just follows orders and stuff. He wants to be the person following orders. And, there's
giving orders.
That's the one. Yes. He wants to be the one giving orders would make more sense in that sentence structure. And obviously there's been some people who's like, okay, I'll let him, this person, okay, typically a him, lead out in front and take the arrows, but that isn't always a successful strategy because, they still aren't happy with you for letting that guy do that. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll all just depend on what Brad Culpepper is like when, he's not trying to protect his wife, when he's not getting yelled at by people he voted out. I honestly don't know. To your point, he doesn't have a big reputation to overcome. He also, just socially doesn't have a big reputation to come. All he has to, the bar for him to seem like, oh yeah, Brad isn't so bad, is really low.
Well, I mean, when you think back at the most memorable things about him in Blood versus Water, it's like him not remembering how to count votes and him forming an all-male alliance and then getting turned on in the tribal council by that alliance. So it's, not a stellar resume, and I think that just probably helps him.
Yeah, well, and I think the biggest thing people remember him for is people, telling him to F off. Yelling
exactly.
at him, right?
How did I gloss over that one?
Right, so it's that's what I'm saying, he can come in with this idea or this reputation that he was this, obnoxious villain type. All he has to do is kind of be a little nice, and people are like, oh, you know what? Brad isn't so bad after all. Now, the question to be seen is if he is capable of that. Maybe he is just this hyper-competitive alpha that's always going to rub people the wrong way, and I don't have the answer for that.
I mean, we'll get it soon. I like, by the way, that we went alphabetical, and I think we're going to be jumping back and forth from top tier to bottom tier here, because up next is Cirie, who is a legend. The only issue here, of course, is that she's a very, very easy first target, though I don't think she should be, and I honestly don't know that she will be. I think that the fact that she's on a tribe with JT and Ozzy might actually save her for a vote or two.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be the big thing, is just how those two have felt over the years about what Cirie did to them. No, I mean, Cirie didn't do anything to JT. He got her, not the other way around. Obviously, she was part of the crew that helped humiliate Ozzy. There was some indication early that, Ozzy's over that, but then just today, his photo with Dalton Ross has Cirie as his first target. Now, I don't really take those that seriously. I would be interested in somebody to go back and do the data of second chances and how many people targeted the first person that they were talking about at in Ponderosa. I imagine Shireen might have gotten it, but I don't know if anybody else really went after that first person. So that's the thing. If those two take control of this tribe, and looking at the makeup, there's a good chance of it. It all depends on, if Ozzy wants to, strike some kind of revenge, but I kind of think it wouldn't be the best idea. I think there's a lot of people on this tribe that could use a Cirie to do a lot of the thinking for them.
Yeah, and one of those people is JT. I mean, if he needs a fishback to win, Cirie's a good one to use.
Yeah, Brad Culpepper, if he's worried about being a spaz, team up with the calmest person on the island, right? That's kind of Cirie's thing, is she'll calmly, sit back and assess things, so.
It's something that I brought up before is, when you make alliances, it's probably not a bad idea to get people with skills that you don't have so that as a parts of a whole thing, you get stronger. So, if you're someone that's lacking in strategy or social graces, Cirie is a very good person to align with.
And like Cirie's history is that there'll be chances to get rid of her. I mean, that's kind of like her whole thing is that she's like a fantastic, like 38-day player, but that day 38, if you're as good as Cirie, you need to win immunity. And, she has yet proven the ability to do so. Beyond her chances, I just want to state, in case there's any kind of confusion due to the, campaign I've been running, I love Cirie and I would love it if she won.
I'm really excited she's back. She was the highlight of Panama. She was great in Micronesia. She was even good in Heroes versus Villains, but I mean, you can understand why she's not going to shine being a, earlier boot in that season and being in that cast. I just think that the problem that she'll have is because she's that legend, who's going to let her get to the end? I think more than anybody else in this cast, she should and will have the hardest time getting to the end.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like, even if you look at some of the other heavy hitters, like Tony or Sandra, like, there are arguments, they might not be good ones, but there are arguments for why you bring them, right? The argument why you bring Tony is the same argument for why, somebody did bring Tony to the finals. Like, oh, he's abrasive, he'll put people off.
Right. There are still people giving interviews saying, well, I can beat Sandra. I'm not afraid to sit next to Sandra. Really? That's what people have thought twice before.
Yeah, well, and then you just look at it, it's like, well, nobody's gonna give her the money 3 times. Yeah. Again, I don't know how solid an argument it is, but it's something. And, you just be like, well, okay, yeah, she won the second time, but I'm not Russell Hantz, right? Like, you can just you can see how you talk yourself into that if right. Sandra has proven useful for you, through the 30 days, 39 days or whatever, right? But yeah, with Cirie, it's just not there.
Yeah, I don't see anyone talking themselves into, no, I'll take Cirie to the end because I can beat her.
Yeah, I think there's, only a few people in recorded history that'd be willing to do that. One of them was Aris. And luckily for him, that decision was taken out of his hands. And, it should be noted that, amazing winner, Parvati and, Amanda also planned on taking Cirie to the end. So I guess it's not impossible. It's just not very probable because
it's just amazing that, for someone that's never even been to a final tribal council, I think everyone would be justifiably terrified to bring her.
Yeah. And that gets back to my point of her being an amazing 38-day player is that, unless some things change, unless something breaks the right way for her, the right kind of challenge, and Micronesia, I think, gave her the best opportunity. It wasn't a physical challenge. She needs to get brought. And she's too good to get brought. So yeah, I don't like her chances for winning, but, I hope she just gets to get out here and do Cirie things. It would be sad if she got taken out early again.
The woman lights up the screen. I am so happy that she's back. Like, I seriously, I just smile when she's on my TV. I can't wait to have her back.
Speaking of, can't wait to have her back, let's talk about somebody I wish they were never bringing back.
Yeah, I was going to go with, on the flip side, Debbie. Debbie is coming back. She's one of 4 that are coming back from Ko-Rong.
That's just too much. For a season that, Jeff Probst already wants us to forget. 4?
Well, Jeff Probst specifically wants us to forget one thing about that season. And I'm here for that.
Or maybe it's more, capital N, capital F, never forget. Never forget what will happen if we let milquetoast people succeed in Survivor.
Yeah, so Debbie, just because of who she is, and I hesitated in reading any interviews with her because I just don't care. I think she seems likely to go with the people who will at least pretend to respect her. The problem is, it's going to be hard to find that, even with people pretending. I think Malcolm already mentioned that he's thinking about aligning with Debbie. That seems insane to me because Malcolm once played with Philip. You'd think he's learned, don't touch the fire.
I think Tony wants to play with her and it looks like she wants to play with him.
Yeah, I think generally Debbie has this weird fixation on I'm going to align with the strong. I don't know. Debbie's insane. I don't see any reason that you would bring Debbie as your GOAT because it's too much work. Why even bother?
Yeah, and especially in like an all-star season like this where like things are going to flip and change. And I think the best chance you have at victory is flexibility. Yeah, you're not going to get one alliance that you just get to carry through. The game, frankly, will not allow for it, but also you're just going to have a bunch of people that are itching to do things, right?
Are you suggesting that the game will change?
I think it might once or twice. And, these other people, they'll, after the 150th time a producer asks them about what it means to be a game changer, they're going to be like, oh, maybe I should change this game. So flexibility will be important. I think that's, a big key to Jeremy's win is that he had so many options and so many things, he loses the Bayon Bros thing because there's a swap and it doesn't matter. Steven now is his number 2. Steven gets taken out. It doesn't matter. Spencer's his number 2. So like he had options. I think if Debbie is your alliance, you do not have options. You do not have flexibility because she is inflexible. She sees the game as in a very different way than what it is because I think she sees the world in a very different way than what it is. And we saw that.
And also water. She sees water in a different way than what it is.
No, she can just see it, man. Testing is useless, man. Look, eyeball. It's good.
Testing is for nerds.
It is. But yeah, like that's what happened to her last time she played. And obviously, past performance isn't always an indicator. In fact, sometimes I think for many of these people, it'll be the opposite. From everything I've read, it sounds like, no, she's going to be the same Debbie. Just, probably more. So yeah, I think anybody who feels like they could play with Debbie is playing with fire. She has a very good chance of being the Abby Maria of this season.
Yes, she will blow up your spot if you're in an alliance with her. It's not worth it.
Yeah, like to your point, it's like, well, who can just pretend to respect her? And I think the answer will end up being no one. And she'll sense it at some point, right? Like, I don't think she's that delusional, in large part because I think she views the world as all about her. That's frankly, as a little tip, that's how you get to be on a reality television show. Mm-hmm. So when people start to dismiss her, and treat that, like she's the weirdo that she is, that's when she might do something. I mean, that's what she did in her first season as well, right? When, she voted out Liz. She could detect the condescension coming for her away from Liz and Peter, which was bad on Liz and Peter, but also, because it's Debbie, not completely, ununderstandable. So yeah, if I were on this tribe, she's the wild card I would want nothing to do with.
Yep. And let's move on to, again, we're jumping up a tier. JT, we have not seen since that fateful moment in Heroes vs. Villains when he decided, I've got an idea. I'm going to write a letter to Russell. I'm going to hand him my idol, which we have defended many, many times and will continue to defend. But I think that really, really helps him that that's the most recent memory of him because now people just are going to think he's an idiot. He got clowned, and I think it really helps take the shine off the fact that he was like such a dominant winner in Tocantins.
I think for most of these people, it's not even just the most recent memory. It's the memory. I think, there's a good handful of the people here that probably just didn't watch Tocantins. Yeah, they think they know he's a winner because it was discussed in Heroes vs. Villains. But yeah, they just think of him as this, good old farm boy. Nothing wrong with him. He's kind of funny. You don't let him do the thinking. Which, was a bit of a narrative even at the time, right? Like, oh, Fishback did the thinking. JT was just, which is a complete undersell. And then Heroes vs. Villains just underlines that. So, yeah, it's so telling. You hear all the people talk about JT and what he's like in, Ponderosa, and they just, they're buying straight into, JT, he seems like a nice guy. No really worry about him from a game perspective.
Right. I mean, it's like, oh, shucks, JT. Like, no one is thinking like, oh, this guy is out to get me. I got to get rid of him. He's a former winner. He won in a landslide. None of that. It's all just like, JT, he seems like a nice guy. I could maybe work with him.
Yeah, no, like, he's the guy that it seems like everybody wants to work with, or most everybody. I do believe Zeke, picked him as, his first boot. And, there's probably like a Tony doesn't really want to work with him because Tony wants to be the only, potential winner. But yeah, and just if you kind of look up and down, I get it. I get why you'd want to align with JT. He just doesn't seem complicated. He seems loyal. forgetting that he, completely threw his, biggest ally ever under the bus, right prior to the last tribal council. Which is last time you remember, he and, Fishback are lifelong friends. So it's weird. Like, these are the conditions that JT needs. Now, I do think a key difference between this and the group in Tokens is I don't think a group of, second, third, fourth time players will be lining up to hand somebody else money. But
Right.
I don't know if he needs that. I think he needs people who want to work with him, who think they can beat him. And I think these are those people. Like, it seems like it's shocking how many people seem to have that perception.
Yeah, and I think it helps him a lot that there's been so much distance since his past seasons. And again, that his most recent one, the most memorable one, was not his shining moment. So, it's very easy to not see him as a threat now that you've, taken some of that shine off of him. And again, he's just, the reason he won his first season is he's just a very charming, approachable person that everybody thinks they can work with. He seems really loyal, like you said. And I think that's just going to pay off for him. I don't see why you would get rid of JT early. And I would say he's a very safe bet to make the merge.
Well, I mean, even if you viewed him as threatening because you remember Token Cheese, he's still not somebody you'd get rid of early. Unless you're just some hyperactive, post-merge pre-game player, those phrases, but it's all well and good to target threats early. And actually this might be a good time to talk about that. But losing challenges a lot is not a good way to play Survivor. So I think the whole, the past winners, the big names are all going to get targeted early. It's just bull. I think it didn't happen in Cambodia. I don't think it's happening here.
Well, there were no winners in Cambodia, but I know what you're saying. There's this narrative in the Survivor fan community that if, these biggest all-stars, the biggest threats, they're the ones that are going to go home first. And I don't think that generally bears out. I mean, I think once you actually start playing the game, alliances break certain ways. Sure, you might have some huge, target that's with you, but there's a lot of votes left to go. You're not getting this person gone in the first 2-3 votes because there's always time for that later.
Yeah, and maybe it's just too many people carrying the scars of All-Stars or whatever, but it's not like All-Stars set like this unbreakable template. What happened is that Jenna Lewis didn't want to go home first in All-Stars, so she was able to talk to all the non-winners in her tribe to get rid of the winners. That's just basic, hey, I share something in common with you that the rest don't. So it's not like everybody's just targeting people. That happened then. In Blood versus Water, Aris was able to, have a leadership position with Tina until Tyson, probably the third biggest name on that cast, flipped it and won. The first person to get voted out in, Caramoan was the huge threat of Francesca. Sure. Vetus was targeted right away in Cagayan as a big threat.
Cambodia, but that's okay.
Yeah, there's so many sus. Caramoan, Cambodia, But that's it. Then the rest of the pre-merge was kind of like a lot of fodder, right? It's like, oh no, they were really scared of the big threat posed by Monica and PG and Shireen.
How dare you?
I dare. It wasn't like people were going, Joe didn't even get voted off the first time he didn't win immunity. So this idea that everybody is just going to immediately attack the biggest threats and it's going to be the dawn of Sierra Dawn. It's like, come on. Yeah. Will a big threat go home early? Yeah, probably. And maybe some of this is from heroes versus villains too, except that you need to remember, the first people who got voted out in heroes versus villains were Sugar, Randy, Stephanie, okay, that's something. But yeah, again, not everybody targets the big people. And frankly, heroes versus villains, it might have felt like a lot of big people went home pre-merge just because it was mostly big people.
Right, exactly. There were 2 names that weren't that big. Well, 3, let's be real. Danielle's not one.
Yeah.
But, those 2 names went home first.
Yeah. So, could happen. I'm not worried about it. I think what'll happen is, sure, we'll lose one of our elites, some of the people that we're really excited about early, but it's not just going to be, going after the biggest target. It'll be Survivor, and it'll be okay, well, this person doesn't fit in with us and we should get rid of them. So, and I don't think JT's one of those people, and I'm looking forward to seeing JT again, but a little worried, that there's this heavy, Superman in a fat suit potential going here.
Oh. funny you should mention that. Because that's a nice transition into the next name on our list, which is Ozzy, who is back for his, what is this, 4th time, right? Yep. Ozzy, you may remember him from such challenges as the ones that he usually wins in the post-merge game. That's why he's back, because he's the physical threat. People like to watch him swim like a dolphin, do the fishing, tell us how great he is, which he does frequently because he's kind of a massive D-bag. But I will say this, I don't have any illusion that everyone that plays against him thinks this, because he's had 2 very near misses. So as much as I think that I would not want to vote for the guy, there have clearly been people that were totally willing to do so.
Yeah, and Ozzy's kind of like a hard one to judge about, like, oh, he sucks at Survivor. No, he doesn't. Because, his first time out, he came as close as you could to winning without winning. Yeah. And not just by 1 vote. It sounds like, there was probably 1 vote that was really close. And then, he would have won South Pacific if he would have won 1 more challenge. The problem is he was also voted out 3 times in South Pacific, so that's a tougher one to judge, with an asterisk, at least to some degree. He was another one of the names where, the people that we, spend time with discussing on Survivor, and it's probably just the kind of snarkier internet community was all like, oh, Ozzy. And it's like, no, this is the cost of doing business, folks. We might not like him, but I'm not gonna be like, oh, I can't believe they brought Ozzy back. It's like, I can't believe they brought an incredibly popular Survivor back to Survivor.
Right.
What?
If Rupert had been in this cast, I'd be like, oh, God, fine, whatever. Because that certain people are coming back.
Yeah, like...
Fine, Ozzy's back.
For second chances, the Facebook page is full of, why did they not bring back Ozzy and Rupert? For second chances. So it's like, obviously, people are gonna want Ozzy back, and okay, sure, fine, whatever, Ozzy. It's like, it's not what I sign up for, but it's his popularity and, status in the history of the game is kind of undeniable.
Well, bringing back that Superman in a fat suit point, though, that was Colby in Heroes vs. Villains. Everyone's expecting, these massive challenge beasts, and he's just failure after failure. Colby in that season went really, really far. I kind of think that maybe if Ozzy goes Superman in a fat suit, people might be like, oh, well, now Ozzy's not a threat at all because, he's kind of a douche and he's not winning any challenges. So maybe that helps him get to or near the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think, Colby had another advantage that people also liked him. So it was like, he's not a threat. And I don't mind spending time with, Colby. In fact, it seemed like the ladies on the other side really enjoyed spending time with Colby. I don't know if an Ozzy who is not being successful in like the things he's good at would be very nice to be around, and frankly.
Well, I will say though, as a viewer, I am here for that shit.
Oh, no, it would be fantastic. Yeah. It was like, everybody complained about Ozzy coming back. It's like, how do you like it now? Because, he's put on some weight. And obviously, him and JT and everybody can talk about the strategic putting on pounds. It's like, maybe. But, there's also a fact that, like, most people on my Facebook pages seem to put on pounds in the last few years, too. Like, he's older. He's an older guy.
They're just fattening up for their immunity run post-merge. That's all.
Yeah, and it's when people say you should do that, it's all fine and good. That's an option that JT and Ozzy get to have. Maybe it's even an option that Sandra gets to have. It's not an option that every returning survivor gets to have. If Haley Ford shows up with, a little bit of game weight put on her, they find somebody else that day to take her spot.
That's why the alternate's there.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, we already used Sierra, and they're like, like, they put in a call for, like, Alexis Maxwell at that second, even if they were, like, on the tarmac. So, good for JT and Ozzy for, looking all slubby and not giving, the people who like men in our audience anything to cheer for. But, we'll see if it pays off, because Ozzy's thing was all being, like, lithe, right? Like, he swims like a dolphin. He climbs trees like a monkey.
Well, now he's gonna float better.
It's possible, but maybe you don't need that. One thing to note about Ozzy that's kind of important, because he has this reputation of being a challenge god, and it's not completely unearned. I think if you look at like Jeff Pittman's scores, he might be like the top individual performer percentage wise or something. has he ever gone into a merge on the tribe that was up numbers?
Yeah, I think it's kind of overstated that he's so good at challenges. He's very good at individual challenges, and more specifically, he's very good at these sorts of individual challenges that they used to have. I think the post-merge challenges they've kind of changed. I wouldn't say that he'd be bad at them necessarily, but it's not the same game.
Yeah, no, like he's good at the balance and hanging on challenges too, which are still a big part of Survivor. And they are in like a beach area, and I don't think you cast Ozzy and not have some level of swimming. So yeah, he'll have his shots, but yeah, I mean, obviously, through weird situations, but Cook Islands, there was, 4 of them going into the merge. I guess he did help win so that it was only 4, but his tribe, or his first tribe, his first race tribe also went down numbers. Again, a bit of an asterisk. Micronesia, the tribe that he was on was down numbers. It just didn't matter because of the favorites that were still on the other side. And yeah, South Pacific, I guess they went in tied. So it's just like, right. He's not like Tom Westman when it comes to challenges. So if people are like, oh, well, the Nuku tribe obviously isn't going to lose first. It's like, Ozzy's like the Carmelo Anthony of Survivor challenge players. Like, supremely talented, but maybe not the best team player.
But when it's his shot to take, he's taking it.
That's right. Yeah, just give him the ball and clear out of the way. And unfortunately, a lot of challenges rely on teamwork. So that'll be interesting to see.
Hey, less interesting to see.
We're not going to go back and forth now.
Yeah, we're definitely not. Sarah, you may remember her from preseason of Cagayan when we and many others thought she could be a potential winner. I kind of feel like playing with Tony and Cass might have permanently broken her, and I don't think she'll ever be able to trust anyone in the game of Survivor again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sarah should probably thank Sierra Dawn Thomas for hey, cool. Since you're here, nobody's talking about how weird it is that I am. Because that was random. And it's hard to think that she was cast for any other reason than to be a Tony antagonist. I mean, I suppose she's a different type. But I mean, okay. Cause I was big on Sarah going into Cagayan. Yep. She was my pick, and then I just decided to handcuff her with the other cop that I didn't think would do very well. And that's the only time I've ever won. But, I mean, yeah, obviously when you go home right at the merge, you're not gonna get a big story. But even what we saw is just she didn't seem like that creative a thinker when it came to Survivor.
Yeah, and I think she's seemingly pretty easily manipulated by Tony. But again, Tony did that to a lot of people in that season. That's not just, a knock against Sarah. I mean, that's Tony being very good at Survivor. Hopefully for her, she's learned from that, but I just, I can't see her going very far. I think just playing a game with Cass and Tony has probably scarred her in a way that won't let her form the sorts of relationships she needs to form. I don't see her getting deep into this game.
Yeah, there's a good chance that she just needed to do what she did then. Just, not with Tony and Cass. And maybe learn a bit that, you should try to get along better with a potential Cass when your alliance depends on it. But to your point, I think there's also a pretty good chance that she won't do what she did last time. She'll want to get out there. She was cut down early. She thought she was in a good position. I'm going to go on Survivor and do a lot of things. The last season I was on, the guy who did the most things won, right? And I don't think, when Tony won, we're like, hey, a lot of people are going to try and play like Tony and fail. And I could see that for her. I think, instead of just being a steady team player, which, she did have some, deviousness to her. She tried to throw a challenge to get rid of Cliff Robinson. It just failed because it ended up being a basketball challenge. She, as much as, she liked to pillar, Tony for turning on the vow of swearing on her badge, she actually was targeting Tony before he was targeting her. So I think she has a willingness to get her hands dirty, but I think there's a good chance that she is over willing.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not encouraged about her chances just because of not even just her reputation, just what she feels her reputation and her experiences were in the last season.
And it's just I don't know why. Why are we her. Yeah, I mean, she was fine. I feel like there was other fine players that were more interesting, but okay.
I'll say this, like, she is definitely not going to be the last person we get from Cagayan. They are going to bring back a vast majority of that cast. We're going to get probably into the pre-merge of that cast coming back.
I get it. Yeah, that was such a good season.
It was. So, speaking of
getting deep into the cast of a season, geez.
Yeah, let's not say good season, because it really wasn't. Sierra Dawn Thomas, the fan favorite, the game changer, the one that everybody latched onto as soon as this cast was announced. She's memorable for being on Worlds Apart at times. She showed that she was fine with lumping herself in with some objectionable people if they offered her safety. So, on that note, I'm going to assume that she's going to try to align with Troy if she gets a chance.
I believe she's already said that that's the one person she's pre-gamed with.
Why not? She go with what you know, right?
Yeah, this is what Survivor is to her. Sitting back, playing with awful people and assuming that will mean that people will vote for you. I think she misses a step in between, which is those awful people have to value you enough to keep you, but sure. There's some discussion of, like, why we're picking on Sierra Dawn when, like, she was more accomplished than Haley in her own season. And I think that's the whole point for me. She had every opportunity to do something, to be interesting. And I know there's the argument out there. It's like, well, she didn't need to do anything. She was set up to go to the end with goats and win. And it's like, okay, but she could have been more interesting doing it, for one. Or for two, she really didn't get that close for somebody with such a sterling idea of strategy, right? She was the first person within the Braun Alliance to get voted out by a majority, right? Dan went home because of an idol. If Dan hadn't gotten idled out, she would have gone back, out before him, So it's just like, she didn't have a very good strategy and she's not interesting. So I don't know why she's back. When the rumors first started, the people that were being interviewed, you mentioned her, and I'm like, what? Because she's tall?
Can't teach height.
Yeah, it's just like, the joke when we found out that she had finally gotten cast, replacing Natalie Anderson. It was just like, I think she was in the hotel bar. It was just kind of like, oh, God, we need somebody.
Yeah, it just always reeked of last minute decision. And if this sounds like we're just being really disrespectful to Sierra, we are.
Yeah, absolutely. She's the one that every time, if they would go to her for an interview, when she would get confessionals, it was always about, oh, these guys, this is the last straw. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make them pay. This tribe is dead to me. And then crickets, right? So
then she votes with them again.
Yeah, so, of the idea of game changers is ridiculous. Her MO was I'm not changing this game for nothing.
Right, she wasn't lying to the players on the season. She was just lying to us in her confessionals.
Yeah, and obviously maybe later in that confessional, she was like, no, I love it. Everything's great here. It's just she had her chance to be interesting, and she wasn't. And I just don't think she can be. But, maybe I'm wrong. It's possible. But, just before everybody floats out hey, she could be the Parvati or the Kelly Wentworth or, all of those. It's like, well, yeah, but maybe she's the Monica or something too, right?
Right. Those people exist.
To your point, you mentioned, she could be the Danielle, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she could go very far in this game, and then you'll look back at the cast and say, her? She was in that season? I mean, that's almost what you do with Worlds Apart. So, yeah. All right, so let's move on to Ty, who is one of those 4 co-wrong people that are coming back for this season. I think with Ty, the fact that he got blanked at that final tribal council in co-wrong probably makes him a lot less threatening to bring to the end. I think that's going to really work in his favor. Things working against him, though, are that he's one of those 4 from co-wrong, and that people are probably going to assume he's got bonds with at least Aubrey and Caleb.
Yeah, and it sounds like everybody is assuming that. The other thing that seems to be working against him and seems legitimate is he just doesn't seem like the most reliable alliance mate, And I think that's something he can overcome. I think it's something where when you actually meet Ty and start to get along with him, that stuff starts to slip away and you're like, I love this guy. This guy's great. And, okay, I get it. He just was uncomfortable playing with, Jason and Scott. But it's just, he has this feel of like somebody you don't tell the plan to. That he was somebody who would always blurt out stuff at tribal council. It's like, dude, you don't say that. And, if this season becomes one of, lots of changing plans and all that, I don't know. And I think it will be. I don't know if Ty's somebody you want riding with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could pretty easily, like you said, explain away flipping on Scott and Jason by saying, look, they made me uncomfortable. Just don't make me uncomfortable and we're fine. I don't want to treat people poorly. I just want to play the game. That's a reasonable explanation. I think that would convince people. And it's like you said, he's a nice enough guy that you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, I can accept that and hang out with him and have him on my side. But because of the massive numbers of co-wrong people here, and the fact that he's got that reputation of having flipped, they think that's probably a stronger negative than the positive of the fact that he had 0 votes in a final tribal.
Yeah. I think what could end up happening though is he's like the final person from co-wrong, and what happens is just like he's not a key member of your alliance. He's the guy you go to when it's time to vote and say, Ty, this is what we're doing. But he isn't involved in discussions. And there's precedent for that. That was Keith, right? And Keith went a long way. That was Eric Reichenbach. You might forget that he was on a returnee season. I think that's Ty's probably best bet is people like him. He's extremely useful without being threatening. And it's just like, yeah, he'll vote for us. He'll vote with us when it's time to go. We're just not going to kind of maybe get him involved in all the discussions and the split voting and maybe this and then second plan is this. It's just like, all right, Ty, it's go time. This is who we're voting for.
Right. And then I think that actually is going to work against people that try to do that because that's the sort of thing that will make him feel alienated from your alliance and then he'll flip on you.
That's absolutely true. That's basically what happened. So.
All right. So let's talk Zeke. Zeke, this cast will not really know who Zeke is because I believe absolutely none of, the last season had aired when they flew out for this one.
Yeah, 2 weeks after he got back, he went back into this game.
Right. So the crowd, I mean, just you look at Zeke, you're going to assume that this guy got brought back because he's a schemer. Because why else are you having some random weirdo with a crazy shirt and a mustache from a season that no one's seen yet? You're just going to assume that. The thing is, I think when he drops the Zeke persona that he sometimes puts on in confessionals, because he likes to ham it up for the cameras at times. I mean, he's an improv guy. I understand it. Anyway, when he drops that act, I think he seems very likable, and he definitely had a lot of bonds with the cast that he was just on. I think if he can get over the immediate suspicions that people are going to have of him, he should form enough bonds and get a tight enough alliance that he can get past the merge.
I'm having a hard time figuring out the trajectory of the Zeke opinion among the fan community. I think for a lot of, his season, people are like, oh man, I love this guy. He's very early on, he's like, oh no, Adam and Zeke are in trouble and all that. And it's like, he'd give good confessionals. People really liked him. As you look Swap, he's in a bad position, but no, he does really well. Some of it's luck being a fellow Okie on Tribe, but still very good social bonds. Merge, he has all the options. People are cheering for him. And then it all turned. And now I feel like nobody seems to like Zeke. And it's, I don't get it. And it's he lost. So maybe that's it. It's one flip too many. And I think there's something to that he's probably a little too hyperactive a player. But it's why are people off the Zeke bandwagon? It just seemed like it happened in a period of 2 weeks. And is it just because that he sided with the side that people weren't in favor of? He sided against David and Hannah or whatever. Is it because he was mean to David for a split second at tribal council? A lot of people are oh, he comes off as arrogant. He was arrogant the whole time. Where did this all come from?
Right.
He's a fun arrogant.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't have any really negative opinions of him. My only criticism is that he got a little too cute at times in the confessionals. I like when he's just Zeke rather than the act of Zeke. When you see him in candid scenes where he's talking to people, that's a really interesting Zeke. I think just sometimes when he plays it up a little too much talking to the camera, I'm not a big fan of. But I liked him in last season, and I was happy that he got brought back. I think he'll do pretty well in this game. I mean, I think regardless of what the fan community thinks, the people who are playing on the season with him will probably have a pretty decent opinion of him.
So what do we make of the fact that, like, he was not promoted as being on this season?
Okay. This is a pet peeve of mine. Like, let's read a whole lot into, like, a 30-second thing from last season's reunion.
And it's live television, so, like, sometimes the answer could just be Probst screwed up.
Right. And more importantly, I mean, we saw Zeke during that season, and I don't think that his edit was necessarily inflated because he was being brought back for this coming season. And I think the same of Michaela. They maybe showed us a little extra of those two because, they wanted to get you to have some sense of who they were because they were coming back. But, I mean, Zeke was entertaining, and the fact that he didn't get mentioned as being on this season at the finale, well, so what? I mean, maybe it slipped Probst's mind. Maybe it was the fact that, Tony's on stage and Sandra's on stage and all these other people are being brought out.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a data point at all. Even to the point where, like, oh, they were featured. It's like, well, no, they were featured because they were awesome. And that's why they're being brought back. It wasn't because Michaela won the very next season, you freaking weirdos. Like that, for much of when they were piecing together Michaela's edit, I'm sure they didn't even know what happened in the following season. They don't actually edit in real time. They get it and they start to work on it,
More importantly, go back and look at the Michaela scenes and say, yeah, this shouldn't have been on there. That wasn't entertaining. Like, every Michaela scene was entertaining. That's why it was on the show.
And that's why she is on again, because she was entertaining. Right. They didn't feature her in the season prior because she's good at the second season. She's in the second season because she was good in the first. And it's the same thing with Zeke. Was he featured a lot because he's on the next? No, he's featured a lot because he's a great narrator. I think, the thing you touched on though is what will be his biggest challenge. Just like, people will be weary that he is, the Russell Hantz. And like, he's on a tribe by somebody who would be really scared, who really got burned trusting the unknown, in JT. So I think it could be, I could see him being the very first target on this tribe. If he can get past that, he has shown a very good ability at creating bonds with people. He convinced people he had voted against 3 days prior to put their entire game on the line to protect him. That is some huge social, work. That is huge. And now he's like, oh, he's this arrogant guy who flips too much. Like, no, like that's huge. I can't, if you think about it, it's like, how did that happen? How did Brett and Sunday not just be like, yeah, whatever, Zeke. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, we're not sticking our necks out for that guy.
Yeah, like he just voted out Chris, but no, they're like, whatever. Zeke has to be here. Even if I go home, this is what has to happen. Like that's weird. Especially because Brett, like, otherwise showed like complete willingness to like just flip to the next. Whatever happens, like, hey, I'm with you guys. It wasn't a big deal. But at that moment, he was ride or die with Zeke, who was not in alliance with him like 3 days prior. So yeah, no, I think, I don't understand why people aren't pro Zeke. I think part of it, coming in here is just like, as we said, there's so many stars that Zeke isn't even one of them.
Oh yeah, it's not even close.
But I'm psyched. He was my favorite player throughout the entire time he was out there. And then eventually Jay, overtook him. But if I ranked the cast, I probably still had him at second that season. Is he arrogant? Of course. That's why I love him.
Yeah, we don't care about arrogance. We always celebrate it around here.
On another tribe, we're going to talk about two other incredibly arrogant people. We love them.
Oh, let's get there. Flipping to the other tribe, let's talk about Aubrey.
Not one of them. No, sorry, not one of the arrogant people. But yeah, Aubrey, there's a part of me that wishes that she wasn't on this season, even though of course she's on this season. She was the featured character of her season. It's just, I kind of wish it was Sophie. She obviously took Sophie's spot. You could have brought Aubrey back later, but as we're getting closer, I'm like, yeah, cool, Aubrey. I really liked her.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem that she'll have here is that she got so much more credit for a win in Kaôh Rōng that she didn't get. And I mean, look around at some of these interviews, people are acting like she won that season. I mean, Jeff Probst is certainly not helping that or hurting that cause at all, because he is very anxious for us to forget that Michelle won. But Aubrey made a ton of mistakes in that season. I mean, she was the, as you said, the star of that season, but she wasn't Cirie. I mean, she didn't nail it her first time. I just get the impression from these other people that they think that she was that. And I think that's a little dangerous for her game.
Well, I mean, it's just the timeline, right? Like we talk about how Zeke and Michaela only had 2 weeks home. I think like 3 weeks prior to everybody going off the air, it's like, was the finale of her season, right? Like that's when it aired for people. That's when they saw it, even though like it was a year prior for them because, you know, I believe they were filmed before.
They were.
Yeah, Second Chances. So it's like the last thing people saw, you know, was her losing, but was like weeks of everybody going, oh, of course, Aubrey's going to win, right? Like that was the general sentiment around non-Edgic people, was that Aubrey was going to win. And then to the point where when it didn't happen, people were like, what? So that's this cast because they were probably watching that season. Even these are people who maybe didn't like study up on everybody or that. They were probably watching it as it goes because they're like, hey, I'm getting ready to go out on Survivor. Let me watch this thing. So yeah, I think you could make the argument that she's like, there's just nobody more front of mind than her. And I don't like that for her.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a strong negative against her, and the fact that she's got so many other people from her season, it's just not the best situation for her.
Yeah, because the Kaoh Rong 4 is another thing that seems to be a real thing that people are talking about. Now, some of it is maybe, you know, they're not getting any favors done by them. I think like Gordon Holmes and Josh Wiggler keep bringing it up maybe. So it's like, dude, stop talking about the Kaoh Rong 4. I think it might be a real thing that people are just like, okay, we gotta get rid of one of them. And I gotta say, especially, yeah, if you're on Mana, and you're like worried about the Kaoh Rong 4 and you're worried about a threat that, you know, isn't necessarily a huge help for your tribe. Although, yeah, she actually was pretty good in team challenges. I target her more than I target Caleb.
Yeah. I mean, at least with Caleb, actually, let's transition into Caleb here because he's next on the list anyway. I think Caleb is such a huge unknown that you probably give him a little bit more of a leash to figure out what exactly he is. We've never even seen him at a tribal council.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that he's sort of a blank slate is probably less intimidating than Aubrey, who you know what you're getting.
Yeah, like, I gotta feel like I wouldn't worry about Caleb at all. Like, it's like, oh, whatever, he's show muscle. He's not going to win a bunch of immunities at the end. I'm not worried about that. Whereas, yeah, he's gonna help us. Yeah, his muscle is what's important in, you know, team challenges to the point where, you know, he'll kill himself to win you, salt and pepper.
Hey, and then you're one step closer to the finish.
Yeah, he's not complicated like, oh man, I gotta outmaneuver Caleb in the strategy portion of the game. Nah. His whole deal seems to be like big loyalty, for the reputation from Big Brother. It's like, if I was any of these people, Caleb is somebody I want in my alliance. Whereas, yeah, Aubrey, if I'm scared about that, you know, foursome and, you know, Sandra ran it down, you should probably be scared of people who, you know, come from a season where there's a lot of people in there. Like, I think I'd go after her.
And like you said, the fact that, Kaoh Rong aired so close to the time that they went out there. Don't forget that Aubrey once had a vote where she crossed out a person's name and then wrote the other person's name on the parchment. Like, I don't know that inspires confidence in people thinking like, oh yeah, I'll align with Aubrey. I feel safe with her as my alliance mate.
Now, I mean, the one positive for her is, you know, she also gets to be a player in all of this. So she might be able to, you know, people might come in, you know, afraid of, you know, the Kaoh Rong 4, worried about her, thinking about getting rid of her. And then, you know, she meets them and she talks to them and she proves herself in a challenge. But I think she's one of those people that like, yeah, and there's a couple on this, and maybe that's the other thing she might have an advantage is maybe there's somebody else on her tribe that people are even more scared of. But like, I think there's a lot of people on this tribe especially that's like, I need more than 3 days.
Oh yeah, and she's definitely one of them. And you know, as you said, I'm glad she's back. I don't know that this is the ideal time for her to come back, but you know, she was a good player. I expected to see her play again. And I'm not disappointed that we're getting to. Caleb, I'm slightly disappointed, but I understand.
Yeah, that's like Caleb's another one. Like it's just not worth the energy to complain about. Like, of course we weren't interested in him coming back. We weren't interested in him being on a season period. But like, duh. Of course they brought him back, you know? It's like this, like,
Right.
There's people are all like, oh, what kind of game changer is Caleb? And obviously some of that's because, yeah, he dared attack the queen. And I support that. Let's shade everybody who does that.
Exactly.
But it's like, duh. Of course they brought him back. They almost killed him. Yeah, this is about, you know, avoiding lawsuits. This is about somebody who they were excited about casting in the first place and then didn't get to use. Yeah, it's like, it was obvious he was coming back. Before they'd even, you know, started filming, it was obvious that he was coming back. And so, sure, whatever, he's there. And I will say, you know, I think in a way I hope he changed the game in some respects. I hope, yeah, after, you know, going through all of that, they're all like, you know what? Maybe when it's like the hottest day ever in a spot, let's not be out in the sand and let's maybe take some water breaks here or there.
Yeah, he changed the game of hydration on Survivor.
I hope so.
All right, moving on. Oh, your girl, Sierra.
Did you know she voted out her mom?
Did she? Oh, no one ever mentions that.
It's underreported, but it's something that happened, and she was such an essential part of it. One of many votes.
I am very glad that you brought that up because Jeff Probst brings it up constantly, and I think the fact that he constantly hypes her up as someone who makes big moves just completely kills her game.
Yep.
I think, like, Probst might be the biggest detriment to Sierra's game.
I mean, he's the biggest, you know, cheerleader and detriment, right? Like, if Probst wasn't so big on, you know, her and the things she did, and then, like, the way she's talked, she wouldn't have come back twice, you know?
Right.
But, yeah, it's just like, she's not somebody who can do well without sneaking up on people, I think. Like, I think her best chance to win Survivor was her first chance, and that was when she was worst at it. I do like her. I still like her. I don't understand why people have gotten this backlash against her. It's like, she talks about big moves. It's like, well, for one, big moves are cool. Why do we hate that? Why are we trying to suddenly pretend? And I think a big theory why people complain about big moves is because Probst talks about it. And
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give this away right now. I'm going to steer hard into, I'm really into Jeff Probst now. Like, I think from what I've seen of him lately, I'm all aboard the Jeff Probst bandwagon. I'm driving that thing. Like, the guy, I've always said that he's a good host. We just made fun of him for the various eccentricities of Jeff Probst, or I guess the various tendencies of Jeff Probst. But he hypes up the big moves thing. He's trying to make the show more entertaining for us. I'm not going to fault him for that. That's his job.
Yeah, it's just like, you gotta be some kind of self-hating fan to be like, I hate it when people do things on my TV show. And you know, that's just how some people are. Yeah, obviously the Probst part of it is a big part. There's just a big brand of fan, and I get it, that just reflexively, if Probst says this, then I have to say that. That's why, you know, there's a good amount of the fandom is like, Malcolm. We'll get to that in a second, but
yes, contain the rage. It's coming.
But you know, it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, he hypes up big moves. Like, yeah, cause it's a television show. He wants things that do things, you know? It's like, you don't need big moves to win. Of course you don't need big moves to win. He doesn't care about who wins. Somebody wins his show every season. What he cares about is whether the show is entertaining.
Exactly. He would like to keep the show on the air, which is something that we would also like.
Yeah, so tying this back to Sierra, you know, it's like, of course then he wants somebody who has the same, you know, ideas as him. But I think it's almost like overblown with her. Why was she promoting that people need to make big moves in, you know, Cambodia? Because if they didn't, they would have voted her out. She's trying to convince
on the bottom.
Yeah, she's trying to convince people, don't do the obvious thing, which is get rid of everybody that's not in your alliance, which is me. Do the other thing so I can stay. And, you know, well, people are like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. No, she was on the bottom. She had to. And also, she was right. It didn't really behoove Tasha and Spencer to stick around with Jeremy that long.
Yeah, I think the problem is that people just have this impression of her now as way more devious and sneaky than she actually is. And I think that just puts this, like, unduly large target on her. And, you know, I think it's really just, she should blame Probst for hamstringing her game.
Yeah, no, she needs to be an under the radar player, but the only reason why she gets to continue being the player is because Probst, like, yeah, doesn't let her be under the radar. Yeah. She, preaches his gospel and it's like, I love Sierra. She voted out her mom. Like, why is that the thing? Why isn't it she forced rocks? Like that's
right. That was the actual big move that she made that season.
I mean, I get it. Obviously, I know why. It's because they put together this whole blood versus water theme with the hope that one of them would turn on their loved ones, and she was the one. And if you're on a blood versus water season and you ever want to come back on Survivor, you better damn well vote out your loved one. That's just the template that's been set.
Shows that you're cutthroat. You're a big mover.
And especially if it's an incongruent package, which I think is another thing that he loves about her, right? Yeah. She is the small girl that's, usually just taken out for nothing. Instead, she shook things up and made the season more interesting than it would have otherwise been. Because, as people said, she made all her moves too late, but it's like, well, at least she created some episodes of television in otherwise the frog march to victory that was Tyson's season.
It's the same sort of thing why Probst loves Cochran. He plays against type. Like he was not the type of person you expected to win and be devious on the way to doing so. Same with Sierra. He has a certain expectation of what she was going to be, and she subverted that expectation. He's like, yes, I'm on board. I love this.
Yeah, no, like Sierra's probably best chance to actually win a Survivor would be, a Danny path or a Michelle Fitzgerald path. Probst is very happy she doesn't take that path because, he's not a huge fan of those.
He's not the only one that's happy that that's not the path.
That's probably the whole reason why we're suddenly pro Probst.
Yep. Speaking of that under the radar path though, Haley is back and that's fine, I guess.
Yeah. Suddenly I seem like I staked out this corner of being pro Haley. She's fine. I think she's pretty. That's it. That's all it is. And it's fun to have this big debate, because I'm just having fun of her versus Andrea. They're basically the same. It's just I find one more attractive than the other. But yeah, look, she was cast because she was pretty and she is. Yay.
I'll say this for her. Welcome back to the post-merge, Haley, because I don't see why anyone would bother taking her out early. I don't hate that she's here. I think she's fine. I'm not super excited. I'm not, super disappointed. She's all right. I don't have negative memories about her time in Worlds Apart other than the season not being great. And she was, entertaining at times in that season. Maybe there was more to her that we didn't see.
Yeah, I mean, that's just rich. She's got potential because they possibly see something in her and that's bore out to happen in the past, right? This is why it's different than Sierra Dawn Thomas. It's kind of like, a prospect in sports. The younger they are, the more you're willing to give them slack for being unproven. The 19-year-old who's one and done in college that's still raw for basketball. It's like, oh no, he needs some time to season. Well, Buddy Hield coming out at 23. It's like, I don't know if he actually has that much potential. The longer you're at something, the less your unrealized potential is. And, Sierra had 6 episodes on Haley. So it's like, yeah, I guess it's possible she was good and she wasn't a big part of the edit because she was the first member of the jury and she also didn't get many episodes. So, okay. Sure.
And I heard her Ponderosas were good. I bet she was fine. I do specifically remember her in some other people's and she was a little bit entertaining there. So, there's at least something. Maybe she gives us something.
Yeah, like those little snippets, her, horrendous, rap videos show that, okay, this girl actually might be a little kooky and fun. Or she might be nothing, right? It's not a big deal.
But as you said, Survivor occasionally does see things in people that they think, oh, maybe we didn't get enough of this person and there's more to it. Just like Jeffrey Varner. He went from not coming back for, 14, 15 years to it's like, oh, we need Varner back now. So back from Cambodia, Varner's gonna be fun while he's there. I don't know how long he's there, but I just know while he's there, it's going to be fun.
He is so great. It's almost a little overexposed, I'd say, post Cambodia, because why wouldn't you want to talk to Varner? But then he's come back and he's the king of the pregame. And I don't just mean alliances, I mean like interviews. If you're a person that doesn't watch the watch the videos or listen to the interviews, just seek out Varner's. He's the best. And yeah, you don't wait to bring him back because he's already, teetering on the edge of being, past his due-by date. But I will say, like, I think what people remember about him is that, he was all completely broken down and that he was too hyper. I'm not sure either of those things will be true this time. He, went in with actual health problems. It wasn't just that he wore down over, 12 days or whatever he was there. I think he had a respiratory issue, in Ponderosa. So hopefully he doesn't have that again. It sounds like he's been working out to get himself in better shape because, I suppose at 14 years, you kind of don't think Survivor's making that call again. So I think he could do all right. And, even if he doesn't, he's going to be awesome.
Well, and here's the fun thing. He's already dropped hints in some of his interviews that he was making those calls before the season. You can't stop being Varner.
No, he's a social dude, right? And I think, he's also blessed with that, ability that even when people know, he can just, make them laugh a bit and that Jeff, he's such a stinker. Like Tyson had that ability. Everybody knows Tyson's an asshole, but he's fun. So it's and then when he's being fun with you, it's oh, he's letting me on. So he's not being an asshole to me. He's being an asshole to them. I'm
in on the joke with him. It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of like being part of the Survivor community that's constantly insulting other communities. You get to feel like you're in on the joke.
Wonder what that's like. The one thing that I think though is that the fact that he can't stop being Varner and, he has to have all these machinations in place, it's going to hurt him. I don't know that he's going to get out of the pre-merge again. I'm still happy they brought him back. Wanted to see him again. I'd like to see him make it past the merge, but man, I can just see him talking his way into a very bad situation.
I mean, that'll be the test. Is he still that way? He's still himself for interviews, for personality. Is he still that way for gameplay? Because, it was a weird situation, really. I mean, he's on a tribe where half of the people there are just go, go, go. We got to do stuff now, now, now. And the other half is no, we're not doing anything, man. Can help us build a shelter. So if that doesn't have that dynamic, does Jeff Varner play, a little machinations, but not so hyperactive? As I said in my piece about him, I think, he got caught out trying to chase the rabbits in the race, right? And they burned out and he burned out with them. But even in that, if he had just simply not aligned with Abby Maria, if he had just simply not, swapped with Abby Maria, he might have made the merge.
Crazy.
Maybe. But yeah, he might have made the merge then because he swapped onto a tribe where he had 3 and the other had 2 and that didn't work out for him. And that only happens because of Abby Maria, right? So even if he's still exactly the same and just has a little better luck, maybe he makes the merge. And then I think once he makes the merge, I don't know why you're coming for Jeff Varner right away. Unless you're just worried about him, blowing up your spot.
I'm looking at this stretch of names we've got coming here. Wow. It's like a murderous row.
This tribe is awesome. That's the thing. The other tribe, okay, that's good. But I think the early episodes we're going to spend a lot of time with this other tribe, even if they don't lose.
Yeah. So next one on the list, Malcolm, who is somehow not being talked about as one of the biggest targets. Can you imagine that we live in that world now, Andy?
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of what I was getting at with Aubrey. Not just that I would have preferred to see Sophie, but it's just the corner's too hot right now. Let it die down. They will ask you back. If you're Ty, you need to come back right away because, you're old. If you're Debbie, they're going to forget about you. If you're Caleb, I guess, whatever. But Aubrey, there's time. And that's what happened with Malcolm. And obviously, he basically only turned down going back to back to back. There hasn't been another opportunity to bring him back since then. But I think the timing's worked out pretty well, that there's people, he's right in the middle, I think the biggest thing that happened for him is Tony existed and that stuff like that. And then Joe Anglem, where people want to call him Malcolm. No.
He is benefiting so much from the fact that Joe played because people have lumped in Joe with Malcolm because Joe came right after and had Malcolm type hair. And then last season we had Jay who is also not Malcolm, but Jay was a lot closer than Joe was. There's been all these like Malcolm lights in the intervening seasons since Malcolm, and I think people have just, for some reason, downgraded Malcolm in their minds by associating him with these people, and he's not those people.
No, I mean, for one, he's not as good at challenges as they were. Although, I mean,
Yes.
I guess Jay's reputation didn't quite bear out to actual victories, but he was alright. He was good. But yeah, Malcolm's solid at challenges. He's a competitive person. He's an athletic guy, but he's not going to terrify you when there's, Ozzy out there, when Caleb looks like a more impressive specimen. Strategically, he was great at strategy, but, amongst the fan community anyway, and I don't know if this bears out amongst people, there's been this backlash, like, whatever, he's just big moves, because you hate yourselves, and I don't understand it.
I mean, like you said, he's perfectly average at challenges, which is fine. That's all you need to be. The thing is, he was great at strategy and great in confessionals. The guy was just really fun to watch, and it's so easy to forget that because of these people that were supposed to be imitations of him and were very, very poor imitations.
Yeah, it's like, I never went off the Malcolm bandwagon. I'm, a big fan coming out of the Philippines. Big fan of Caramoan. He's one of the big reasons why, we probably, especially early on, overrated Caramoan, because he did awesome things in it. Yep. So I never went off, but even that, by still being a Malcolm fan, just like getting this new, refresh of Malcolm in interviews and stuff, it's like, my God, I love this guy. He is so fantastic.
Oh, the first Malcolm interview that came out, we were sharing it as a staff. We're like, oh my God, you guys, Malcolm's back.
Yeah, I think every paragraph we were screenshotting and sending, God, can you believe he said this? He's the fan that isn't a nerd, and I think people can't comprehend that. It twists. It's like, to be a super fan, you need to be, a little nerdy, or maybe at least a little scrawny and over earnest. It's like, no, it apparently, and I don't have a lot of evidence in the circles I run in necessarily. Actually, no, I do, because everybody in our community is, super hot and awesome. But it's like, you can also, be physically desirable and competent and be a big fan of the show. And everything is meta commentary. He's the one, in interviews I guess I gotta call it something. He didn't get up in arms about it. Then, getting back to the discussion we had earlier, with Zeke. Yeah, he's arrogant. I love it.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, if you're Malcolm and you're like, shucks, I don't know, man. It's like, quit the bullshit. All right.
Yeah, exactly. It would be so obvious you were putting on a humble act. Why? You're a freaking Ivy League grad. He played football for an Ivy League school. He's a really handsome guy. He was great on Survivor. Really smart. Come on. Am I going to expect you to think that you are somehow just the average Joe? No! You're better than the average Joe. You're better than actual Joe that was on Survivor.
Very much better than Joe. So yeah, it's they have long hair, and I'll understand that you wish he didn't have the greasy long hair, but he's not even a poor man's Malcolm. He's not Malcolm. He's somebody else. Malcolm is on a different tier, and I'm so psyched to have him back on my television show. And I think he'll do well, to the reasons we discussed, that, strategic threats. There are sneakier, more accomplished players on this cast. Physical threats. There's more of those. And there's actually so many of them that, he can bro down. We've seen that. And yes. The advantage here is he could probably bro down with people that aren't quite as stupid as the people he was forced to in Caramoan.
And I think your earlier point about Debbie being very inflexible, the exact opposite of true is true of Malcolm. He can play with just about any person on this season. I can see him forming alliances with probably 95% of this cast just because of different types of, or parts of his personality. He just fits well with almost any group. And I think this is the ideal time for him to come back because it's just been long enough that people forget exactly how good he is.
People forget how charming he was. He went into the swap in Philippines, and everybody's like, "Man, I love that Malcolm. Come on, Malcolm, be on our team more." Pete's looking right in his face, no, he doesn't have an idol. It's he's incredibly charming. He's smart. He is funny. I think he is the most likely to have the ability to win. I don't know if he's the most likely winner because, frankly, I think it's percentage points amongst a lot of people. But he has every chance to win this season.
Which is amazing because, again, if you remember the Malcolm coming right off of Caramoan, you would assume in any future season, like, oh, God, people are going to take Malcolm out right away or as soon as they can because why would you let that guy go far?
Yeah, if he would have come back for Blood versus Water, which he was asked to, he would have been targeted as a threat, even more so than Aris was, for instance. Although, I don't know if Malcolm takes that spot if Aris is in the season. Because it was his brother, actually. I think he had his spot, actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, there's just been enough time that, he's become underrated. Weird.
On the flip side of that, not enough time, probably. Michaela, she had 2 weeks, just like Zeke did, from the turnaround time for her last season and this one. Normally I don't know that it's the worst thing in the world. It's not great. But I think particularly for Michaela, who was a much more physical player, probably not ideal for her to have gone from starving to gorging to starving again. She's gonna have that same thing that Zeke has, where it's like, who the hell are you? But I think early on, people are going to be sniffing around for clues about what she is. Why is she here? Is she deceitful? Is she going to stir the shit? Is she like comic relief? And I think it's very easy with Michaela. Like, you're going to get the impression really quickly that she's there because she's strong and she's entertaining. And I think that's going to calm people down and they're not going to go after her right away.
I think Malcolm's already, or no, it was Varner. Varner's already figured it out just for Ponderosa. Yeah, and he nailed it. I think, before they go, any tribe goes to tribal council, they'll be like, okay, I get it. I understand why she's here. And to her advantage, at least she didn't go deep into the game in terms of, destroying her body. So she had, the pre-jury trip and stuff. I think, there's still that psychological thing of, for one, being away from everybody and also just kind of the hoarding of food. So it's not ideal to go back to back. I also don't think she's really learned much about Survivor in that time or before. Mm-hmm. And that's not always necessary. Plenty of people played really good Survivor games without being like a student of it. But I do think it might be more difficult in a returnee season. Just because, like, even just a simple thing, like, people want to speak to you in the language of Survivor, and she might just kind of be like, And she didn't go to that many tribal councils. Is it just 2? Yeah, like, I think it's Mari and her, right? I don't think they, so, there's stuff like that. And just kind of like the impressions I've gotten from her interviews is just like, she's, somebody who thinks Survivor's about challenges and, that sort of thing. I think, she learned a bit of a lesson about being too trusting and how people are interested in their own games more than just hers. But some of that has come from her post-game interviews the first time around, which of course were after this one. So yeah, exactly. I'm not sure what to make of her chances or, if she's going to be any better at this. Ultimately it doesn't matter because she's awesome and I'm glad she's on television again.
Likewise. My fear is that it's a little too soon for her, but I think it might actually work to her benefit that she's not necessarily going to be this super strong beast that she was in last season. I do think, though, you kind of touched on something. She's probably going to be the type that's going to try to align with all the alphas. She does have it in her head, much like Ozzy did once upon a time, that this is a game about winning challenges. I can kind of see that happening. She might bro down even more than Malcolm will. But again, I'm just happy that she's back. Like, who cares? She's going to be entertaining. She's a net positive for this season, no matter when she goes out.
And she wants to align with Sierra Dawn Thomas because she's tall.
Yes, that was perhaps the best assessment of Sierra Dawn Thomas that I have seen. I don't know who that girl is, but she's tall, so I'm going to align with her.
Very accurate. I was like, you nailed it. But yeah, no, I'm psyched to see her. And if you just look at this tribe, which again will be together for 6 days, I think she will play well with some of these personalities, especially the 2 biggest personalities on this tribe. Ooh. Starting with Sandra. The queen is back!
That's right. Point at the scoreboard. There's a 2 up there. She's gotta be the obvious threat, right? I mean, when you talk about, we gotta target so-and-so because it's too big of a threat, that's her, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, no, it's her and the next person we're going to speak of. And basically they keep going neck and neck of the people they're going to target. And I do think it's a real thing that, yeah, she could be the very first person voted out. But as she has said herself, if she can make it past that day 3, which was basically not go to tribal council in the first 3 days.
Right.
I think she has a very good chance of doing her Sandra thing, because there's other people that would be worried too, right? Like, oh, Sandra's such a huge threat. Let's take her out. Tony's such a big threat. Let's take him out. Oh, I don't know about that Varner. He's such a big deal. Oh, Sierra, she voted at her mom. And I think she can weave into people's heads and be like, you need me. You don't want to set the template that let's get rid of big threats, Malcolm. You don't want to set that idea, Tony. And so, 3 days in, especially, they lose. There's a good chance they lost because they were the tribe that had Sandra on them. But if she can get past that, I think she could do really well.
The thing is, people somehow still are underestimating her. Like, Caleb says she's not a game changer.
Yep.
Brad says he's willing to sit next to her at a final 3. And Malcolm is like, well, I mean, if I don't win, I hope Sandra does.
Yeah, but yeah, to his credit, he's also been like, she terrifies me. But
yes. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying he underestimates her in any way, but he's like, you know what? If she makes it, she deserves it. Good for her. So, it's the possibility of a third win for Sandra is a real thing.
I think it is, and it would be delicious, and I'd love it, and we'll get into that, in a little bit. But yeah, and then also just kind of gets back to Malcolm, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think there's a good chance that, one of the reasons Francesca went home first is because, Malcolm and Cochran would think it would be funny. And I think it's the same thing here. It's like, man, it'd be hilarious if she won the third time, wouldn't it? That's his fandom coming out, and, that's great. And I'm excited. I think there's a good chance she does not do well, because there should always be a good chance that Sandra does not do well, which I guess inversely is also why she should do well, right?
Right. Exactly. I should point out though that Cochran specifically defended that first vote in Caramoan and said, no, they were not trying to clown Francesca as the only ever double first boot. But whatever, who cares?
But yeah, I mean, for one, if it's apocryphal, who cares? It's a fun story. But I also think it's like, well, it's an added benefit, right? Like, maybe it wasn't the primary thing, but it's like, all right, well, we're measuring these two options, and yeah, it really probably should be Francesca because of pregame alliance, blah, blah, blah. And also, it would kind of be funny, right?
Right. But the other thing about Sandra that we have not touched on yet, she has beef with Cirie. The queens going at each other.
And it's the only way it could be, everybody who got, you saw this, it's like, oh my god, it's great. We got Sandra, we got Cirie, maybe they could play together. Cirie never plays with the person you want her to play with.
No, and Sandra is not having it either. She is all up in Cirie's business. Like, no, not Cirie, never. Getting rid of her immediately.
Yeah, and it boils into Cirie not respecting her in various venues, and if you've seen her Hall of Fame votes, you kind of get it. It's funny. Cirie doesn't seem to like the Cirie type players. And I think it's probably just because it's like, it's like how, I'm so, petty that I often don't laugh at other people's jokes. I think it's kind of something like that going. But also, there's something to it, is that, I don't know how Sandra and Cirie would ever be in an alliance. There's just too much duplication. Each of them needs to be the one in their alliance, because if you kind of put them together, it might be a weak alliance in some respects.
Exactly. It's like having 2 point guards. Why?
Exactly that.
There's one ball.
And so, it's actually, other than it might sadden you a little, I wouldn't mind seeing them go to head to head. We'll see if, it can come to pass that would even happen. But it's kind of an interesting little subplot. Now, what would be even more interesting is if it's all fake, man. This is the pregame alliance.
What if this is all conspiracy? What if it doesn't exist?
Now, ultimately, it's like, well, who are they trying to fool, man? Nobody else is just us. I mean, I appreciate the gamesmanship, I suppose, but.
Yeah, it's all pregame interviews, so no one is going to know this until after the season anyway. So I kind of think that it's got to be real, but still, it's fun to imagine that it might be just this whole big conspiracy they've got going.
All right. Speaking of fun.
Oof. God damn, we're ending the podcast on a high note here. Tony is back. Team TV is back in our lives. I could not be happier. Here's my one worry, and it's such an obvious worry. Tony wouldn't even be safe in a season of all winners.
Nope.
Like, who draws a bigger target than Tony in an all winners or all-star season? The only names I can think of that might are Rob and Parvati.
Yeah, I'd say Parvati. Rob is like a useful team player at the early stages, you know? He builds shelters, that sort of thing. Although I guess Tony does
Tony
too.
builds them just for himself to hide his spy on you.
That's right. But it's just like, and Rob is shown to be somewhat straight up with his own alliance. It just, he manipulates them in other ways. Tony, I just don't know how you'd ever trust him. He should be doomed, and maybe he is. The holdout I have is just like, he's freaking Tony. Yeah, maybe everybody is targeting him, but he's that much better at Survivor than they are, He plays at a pace that just nobody can compete with. And I'm very excited to see it. Yeah, I could flame out. Sure, whatever. I don't care. He's still one of the best players of all time, and they'll never take that away from me. But like, maybe he gets an idol right away and he's able to, stay that way and then find the fissures. Maybe everybody has the same idea. Oh, Tony's really dangerous, but he's my shield. He's the guy, everybody's going to talk about Tony, and I can be the one operating in the shadows, which is like 80% of people's preferred method. That's how he did Cagayan. It would be amazing if it would happen again.
Like you hinted at, if Tony is the first boot on this season, it matters not. Tony is still the king of Survivor, and if his tribe loses first, how confident are you that in 3 days on the island, Tony has not found an idol?
Yeah, at the very least, you're splitting votes between Tony and Sandra, right?
Right. I mean, you have to split votes because you can't possibly be confident that Tony, a man that sleeps a fucking hour a day, is not going to find an idol. I mean, so you'd have to split the votes. And at that point, if it's too risky, if you don't feel like you've got 8 people to split votes with, maybe you just say, we can't do it on Tony right now. We'll make it happen later.
Yeah, and I think what happens is they want to target him because he's the scariest person out there. But they also can't target him because he's the scariest person out there.
Exactly.
And, you look at the other people here and it's like, well, who's, gathering up those votes? Yeah, there's potential, right? Obviously, Malcolm has the ability to do that, but I think also Malcolm doesn't want to set a template of, let's go after the scariest people. Like, I think Malcolm very much wants to be like Jeremy, that there's always a bigger target than him. Varner, maybe Varner's crazy enough to try it. Big move Sierra, maybe, but I think a lot of these people are just kind of like, but what if we shoot and miss?
Right, exactly. If you come at the king, you best not miss. And I feel like you could miss if you come at Tony. And I think people are going to be gun shy just because of that. Because do you really want to trust that when you go after Tony, he doesn't have an idol, he doesn't see it coming? I mean, especially on a first vote. I mean, if you're going to blindside him, it's not there. Like, he's going to be on edge for that vote if he's, if it's a first, 3 days, whatever. And you assume in that time he's spent at least several hours looking for an idol. I wouldn't do it. I would be terrified.
Yeah, I think the person that actually could most pull off, a vote against Tony would be Sandra. Yeah, and obviously she's not somebody who goes out there and leads a vote, but she can direct things, and that's because she's good at information and that sort of thing. But I also don't think Sandra wants to get rid of Tony early. I think she wants other winners around for a while to keep to share the heat with her.
Right. It's the same reason that Malcolm wouldn't necessarily target Tony and Sandra first, because then Malcolm is the big left in this tribe.
Yeah, and I think there's a high likelihood of that happening, that everybody's like, oh, no, the big threats are going to take it out early. It's like, I think there might be a punt a few here or there. Just cause it's like, I'm the big threat. So, it requires a level of ego to recognize that it's somebody else, not you. And I think there's enough big egos here that that's not going to be the thing, You don't want to set And you look at somebody like Jeff Varner. Jeff Varner, he's gonna be crazy enough. I don't know, man. Maybe he's snake bit from like having to go from Fetus to Shireen to PG and all this. Like, maybe we should have just voted out Abby that time. So
yeah, maybe he just wants to find the easy votes.
Yeah. And make sure those votes aren't him,
Right.
And then, like, get your sea legs and then go for it. Because, like, I think he was literally winded for other reasons, but I think that pace, he recognized that wasn't for him. So, yeah, I don't think Tony's the first vote. Because the other thing is, he's actually a really hard worker. It's, totally underreported because why would you show him building shelter when you can show him hiding in one? Right? But, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Do you get rid of that guy 3 days in when, there's maybe a cyclone outside?
And he's not bad at the team challenges either. So it's, there's a good chance they don't even lose that first challenge. And if they do, maybe he's still safe anyway.
Yeah, he's lost one team immunity in his, Survivor career.
Right.
And that worked out great. They got rid of Lindsay. So, obviously, yeah. I don't know about rewards. There might have been other challenges, but no, his strength is those things. And then once it turns to individual, they threw a puzzle at the end of like every challenge.
Yeah. That's the thing is once you get to a post-merge game, then Tony's even more terrifying. But at that point, everyone will be down if you want to get out Tony.
Yeah. And maybe at that point, you can do some, vote splits and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, like if you're going after Tony first, hopefully it's like a whole team split between Tony and Sandra, and then maybe you can do it. And
right.
If that scenario, I think Tony and Sandra vote for each other too, and then it becomes a thing.
Right. That's the only way I would do it, if I were on this tribe. But I think really it's maybe not even such a bad idea to let him stick around, at least till a swap, maybe even the merge, because again, once you hit the merge, you will find people lining up to split a vote with you to try to take out Tony.
Yeah. I suppose the other way you do it is if you're Malcolm, you're arranging this, and you found the idol.
Yes. Although even then, are you 100% confident that there's only one idol on your beach?
Well, and then also, like, how confident can you make everybody else in your tribe that, without telling them that you have an idol? Because if you're
right.
Malcolm and you find one, you can't tell people.
Yep.
So.
All right. Let's close this tribe out in the only way we possibly could. Troy. Let's take out the garbage. He is the only player that I would absolutely confidently say has no chance of winning this season.
Yeah, unless he's become an entirely different person, which is not really a thing that happens to people right. that much late in life.
Yeah, just if you look at this cast, I cannot possibly name 5 people that I can see voting for him to win the game. Unless, like you said, he's a completely different person, which is not going to be the case.
Yeah, do you have more you want to say about Troy, or do you feel like that piece has been said?
Yeah, I said a lot about him in a post on our site, so feel free to go read it.
Maybe we'll link to it in the link to this, on this podcast.
Yes, there is. I would definitely not be willing to try to take Troy along as a GOAT. Yes, he's very appealing because people would not vote for him to win, but he's going to try so desperately to appear in control that he's just going to ruin your plans, and it's not worth the hassle. Don't bother.
Yeah, Troy is one of those players that when the cast is announced, they're like, oh, the season sucks. Because, Survivor fans do that. Every new thing, oh, that's going to suck. And look, I get it to a degree. I will say this. I do not share your and a lot of people's visceral dislike for Troy Robertson. And it's mostly because it's like, man, he's such like a minor figure in the history of the show. Why are we talking about him? And obviously for this season we have to. And there's the question like, yeah, him? And frankly, there's why is production so interested? Like, we have data that nobody else is. Right. Why him? But it's just like, yeah, people are like, Troy is one of the worst people ever. Survivor's like, him? I like, he's a footnote. If that, he's nothing. He's like, whatever. He's just an old guy with a beard.
I'm glad though that I feel like my arguments against Troy have they've caught on to some degree, because I don't feel like there was as much deserved dislike of Troy.
I do
And
think
now
you've been
it's
a little
there.
influential in this area. I'm going to give that to you because suddenly he's this uber villain. And I'm not, if you're listening, you're like, no, I hated Troy all along. Sure. It's just, you've called attention to it. It's just whatever. Who cares? This is my feeling on him. He shouldn't be here, but I hadn't, you went on the Troy hate early, and it's kind of your trademark thing. You go after people that are meaningless. They bother you in that way.
I hate mediocrity.
Yeah, and it's I guess he did some things, whatever. I mean, he was just another one of the idiot men of that season, and then he wasn't the last one, still in the game, but the last one to say anything. So that, he looked like an idiot, but he had already looked like an idiot, You were somebody who voted to go to tribal council when you didn't need to. Get out of here with this Troy talk. Oh. You're not worth the hatred.
Yes. Now let's get out of here with this Troy talk and instead do this. Let's break down the scenarios that would make us the most happy with this season. The winners that would make this season so fulfilling for us.
Yeah, because as we said, we're excited about a lot of the people coming. And, obviously for me, probably who wins will make me excited. That's overplayed. Yeah, my front runner status. There's been winners recently that do not make me happy about it. It's not that I cheer for winners. I cheer for, good players. And, sometimes those two things align and sometimes not. But there's people even beyond this 5 that I'm excited for. But I wanted to make a list of 5, and I encourage people to do that in comments of who would make you happiest. And I'll start with number 5. Jeff Varner is my number 5. Imagine a winner's edit for Jeff Varner.
It would be chaotic as hell, and he is also my number 5. I was tempted to say, well, I guess I could go ahead and reveal it because she's not on my list. I was tempted to put Michaela at 5, but Varner was just so fun in Cambodia.
Yeah, and he's been so fun in the preseason now. But my point about, you're obviously chaotic in the edit. I think the edit's going to be chaotic anyway, because, these are game changers, man. But he would get more confessionals, right? He would be the narrator of the season. And, I'm here for that, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also it would be touching. What, a 15-year journey? And that's the other thing, we remember Varner because it's the things that stand out the most is that he is, deliciously funny. He is also hard on his sleeves type person. He shares the experience with us. If he won, man, forget about it. That would be amazing.
All right. So let's go number 4. I have Malcolm. I can't believe that he's only number 4 on my list, but I can't imagine a world where we might actually see Malcolm win. I think it could happen and it would make me so happy. I mean, I was rooting for him in both of his previous seasons. Although I was happy with the winners of both of those seasons as well. Just, he's so fun to watch. And I mean, not to the same degree. It's a different type of fun to watch than Varner is. It's just, he appeals to a whole crowd that actually might make him less popular with the super fans because, he's so popular with the casuals. But he's just great. He's great TV. He's great at Survivor, and it gets overlooked because he's great TV. It would make me really happy to see him win.
Yeah, here's a note to the listeners. Don't be that person who, reflexively hates something because it's popular. It's a young person vibe to have. Obviously, there's probably some older cranks that still do that. It's every once in a while, people get it right, Every once in a while, that popular song is also good. Every once in a while, that popular movie is also good. And that's the case here. Yeah, and it's just different reasons. They're he's such a nice boy. Malcolm is great. And it would be great if he won. I have him actually higher on my list. I actually thought about it for number 1, just because the more we get of him in the pregame, I was man, it'd be awesome to see him win.
Oh, I highly encourage reading his pregame interviews with Wiggler and Gordon Holmes.
Great
stuff.
I landed him at number 3, just because there's 2 other people who, for their win would make me happier for slightly different reasons, maybe even outside of game reasons. So I have him number 3. My number 4, which I suspect is also in your top 3, would be Cirie. Because
that's actually that's my number 2.
There you go. I love Cirie so much. I've loved her for, there's nothing original about this. I loved her since everyone loved her, and I still do. The shade I've been throwing about, isn't it so easy to win on fourth? Nothing gets ruined by her winning, because then it would just be like, hey, y'all excited about for somebody winning on their fourth time, huh? Obviously, I get there's a difference, beating, All-Stars than beating, the scrubs of Redemption Island. But I also don't believe for a second that you guys would have, diminished her win if she had beaten the scrubs of Redemption Island. I don't mind last time the timer won. I would love it if Cirie did it. And it would be amazing if it happened for the reasons we discussed.
Yeah, as I said, I think she's got by far the toughest path to victory, which is insane, but because it's that toughest path to victory, that's why it's number 2. Cirie getting that first W in this crowd would be amazing.
All right, so I already said my number 3 is Malcolm, for all the reasons we've been talking about since we started talking about Malcolm. Number 2, or wait, I guess you should probably do your number 3.
Okay, so my number 3 is Sandra, if only because of how much it will enrage the people that still claim she's not a great player.
And that's why I have her 2 ahead of Malcolm, because I would bathe in their tears even more.
Yes. I get the ridiculous arguments that they make now. Just keep trying to make that argument when she's got $3 million to back it up.
Yeah, that's sort of tough. It's like, on the other hand, it's like, look, I've seen her win. She's got her wins. It'd be great to see a Cirie or a Malcolm get their win. But the other side is just so obnoxious about it that I want to see them fail. And frankly, it's probably why we have even extra dislike for, the way Korong ended up, is because we wanted those people to be wrong. I want to see them be wrong again. I mean, they're already wrong. We already know they're wrong. She won twice. And frankly, if she wins a third time, I wouldn't even mind if she won in the exact same way. Of like, oh, she tried to do one thing and then she failed the whole time and that's what we reward her for? And it's just because they hated Troy or whatever. It's like, fine. Yes, it's the most random thing ever, flipping coin heads 15 times in a row. It's completely not because she has some innate ability that you don't understand. It's because, I just flooped into it twice. She's a great character, but not a great player. So yeah, I want those people to fall on their faces, and that would make me happy because that's how I'm wired, and that's why I have her at number 2.
Okay, this has me believe that we're heading towards a mutual number 1.
How could it be any other way? And maybe it's because we called our shot first, with Tony. But this is why I have Tony at number 1, because if a season that Tony wins, an all-star season that Tony wins, would be the most amazing season of all time.
That is exactly, almost to the word, my reasoning. There is no world in which Tony wins this season and it is boring or mediocre. It is instantly an insane top 5 season. Instantly.
Like, probably the best season of all time. We obviously would have a hard time putting something at number 1 as soon as it was over. But yeah, like Sandra could win this and it could be in a boring way, right?
Yep.
It wouldn't be boring all the way up because she is terrific television. But yeah, like I said, it could be because Troy and Sierra Dawn Thomas get to the end with her or something like that, right? People did the same, disrespecting her legacy. Now, it should be noted that she's never won a season that wasn't great, but it could happen, right?
Sure.
Malcolm could just kind of dominate in, his way to the end. It's not even for me, completely about the win, although it'd be amazing if Tony Vlachos was a 2-time winner. But again, as we said, first boot, doesn't matter. Nothing changes his legacy. It's that Tony winning a season guarantees that season would be just mind-blowing. It would be more mind-blowing than Cagayan because there's no way you should be able to do it again.
Right. He can't surprise you this time. You know what to expect and you let it happen again. That's insane.
Or it's like you thought you knew what to suspect, but he found something else, man.
Yes, he took it to a different level that we didn't think existed.
So yeah, that's what would make me happiest because that would result in, it's breaking my brain even trying to comprehend it. So it's not even so much about him winning, it's about what it would mean for, 16 weeks of television.
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, just the second 2-time winner being Tony, and Tony being what he dubbed, he's ready to dub himself the King of Survivor. Yes, he would be that. I mean, how would he not be?
Yeah, and he would be all over social media until the day the next season starts, and then he would be gone from our lives again until it's time to win number 3.
Oh, we'd be getting those walls of text and DM. It's going to be the greatest.
Yeah. So, oh yeah. So we had the same 5, slightly different order, same first place. I'm sure people have different thoughts because that would be weird if you didn't. All right. So we should pick the actual winner. Who do we actually think will win? And you actually got this right once, right?
I actually have a streak going here.
Wait, did you get Adam from preseason on?
I did.
You did, yes.
I did.
So tell us who your spoiled Victor pick.
Yeah, clearly I must know the winners here. And so I'm going to use my powers for good. I will say the last 2 times I actually put thought into it, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna see what this person or who these people are most like in age and, you know, like who they could potentially get along with, blah, blah, blah. Fuck that. This time, I'm just going to try to use my powers for good. I'm going to say Tony wins this season.
Whoa, you're just going all out there.
Yeah, I mean, am I going to be disappointed if Tony wins this season? Fuck no. So if I'm right and Tony wins this season, I mean, it's just the cherry on top.
All right, I'm not going far on a ledge. It's kind of where I've been going already. And also, I'm kind of a little past trying to find that obscure winner in All-Star seasons. I think the worm has turned on that. And obviously, it could turn back. It's a very random game in many respects. But yeah, Jeremy wasn't like, you know, he was a little under the radar, but not completely under the radar. Tyson was a huge star. Cochran was one of the bigger stars going into the season, if not necessarily the bigger threat. So I think the days of like just trying to find that average person, the Amber or the Parvati, I think those might be past us. So I'm going to say Malcolm for all the reasons we discussed. I think he has the tools. I think, you know, he has things he can hide behind. And I know there's some worry that, you know, the Final Four challenge will be, you know, something to do with his hands and he'll lose. I think you guys are insane. There's no way if they set up a challenge that eliminated Malcolm again at the Final Four, that person loses their job, man.
I mean, I'd be in favor of it. Meaning I'd be in favor of the person losing their job for doing that, because how dare they?
Yeah, like I could see them having that challenge again at some point. You know, I believe Matt's pushed this. Suri had the same issue, but it's not going to be the Final Four challenge. They're not doing that. They're like, how can we, if they had it set up and Malcolm's that Final Four is like, oh, look at that. We found something else to do. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's my winner pick. Let's go to the other side. These are the picks we have for the first boot. These will be our week 1, predictions. One from each tribe, as we traditionally do, because it's hard to guess who's going to win immunity.
Sure. Let's start on Nuku. Who do you got on Nuku?
I think it's going to be Debbie. I just think, you know, they'll get out there and everybody's going to try and do their thing and she's going to be doing her thing. They're like, hey, these aren't difficult thinkers on that tribe, you know? I just see JT and Ozzy, and Ty just be like, Brad, be like, she's not my vibe. And more of that, I think Debbie's going to go after Andrea, and I think Andrea's going to easily flip that situation on her.
Yep. So I narrowed it down to Debbie, Ty, or Suri, and I think it's Debbie as well. For most of the same reasons you said. Just I can't imagine that Debbie doesn't try to overplay it, and then everybody's like, you know what, we're not going to put up with this.
Plus the wrong 4 thing. So, you know, There's just so many reasons. I think the funniest would be that it's Sierra, Don Thomas, after, you know, all the memes and then all the counter memes of, you know, like former castmates defending, of course she should be on this season. And other people like, oh no, she's going to be the Kelly Wentworth, and all this to do about nothing, about her being elevated as the main WA amongst, you know, a handful of WAs. And then it's nothing. 3 days. She's like, yeah, right. She should never have been brought back.
That would have been amazing, but I feel like it's not happening. So
yeah.
Let's go to the Mana tribe. Who do you got there?
I think it's Aubrey. And we kind of discussed why. And, you know, I think if you also look at this tribe, this is more of a tribe of players, right? I think they are people that wouldn't necessarily want to, you know, get rid of, you know, just a weak player. Although, frankly, there aren't really many weak players on this tribe. Right. But, you know, weak challenge performers, there's a few. But it's just like, yeah, and she's not one of them. I think she's actually a pretty solid challenge competitor. I think these are people who'll be like, yeah, she's too dangerous. We just saw her almost win. There's 4 of them. We have other things. She doesn't provide a shield necessarily. And I think, you know, she'll be the victim of her own success.
All right. I narrowed it down to Sandra, Sierra, or Varner. I wanted it to be Troy. I don't think it's going to be. I'll say it's Sierra.
All right. For the kind of the things we discussed, right? That,
yeah, I mean, it's just the big moves thing, and people aren't going to trust her, and she's just going to flail around, not find the right alliance to get into, and then she's just screwed.
Yeah. No, I mean, basically, I think it's kind of the flip side of the Aubrey thing. They just, see her as the bigger threat.
All right, so let's wrap this thing up. We've got all sorts of content on our website, purplerockpodcast.com.
We are busier now than we generally are, and probably will be in season.
How the hell did that happen? Seriously, do we not know how to take breaks? Which is very weird for us because we're very lazy.
But as you say, we've farmed out a lot of content to the regulars on our site because, frankly, we've got a deep bench of talent. I don't want anybody to feel left out that they weren't that talent. It's probably because you did the same thing and took the off season off if you weren't asked to do something. But yeah, the big thing I think going on right now, besides all of our Game Changers content, is our tournament to determine the Ultimate Survivor winner, which has already resulted in some surprising results.
Yeah, because we went chronologically, so you can find that on our website too. Make sure to vote. We're putting up one a week, and it'll run through the start of the season. And we've got a little surprise for you in the first week of the season. We got a little special podcast coming your way. Not going to tip you off too much to what's happening, but let's just say we're going to surprise you with something.
Hopefully. One of the reasons why we're not going to tip it off too much is it's like 95% that we're going to do something awesome. So if it doesn't happen, the awesome thing is that, John and I are going to talk to you guys. That's always awesome. But no, we actually have bigger plans than that. So look forward to that. As always, you can follow the podcast on Twitter, during the show on the East Coast. John has very funny bon mots that people tell me. I mean, I don't find other people's stuff funny unless they're Jeff Varner or Malcolm. You can find that at Purple Rock Pod. I am Purple Rock Andy.
And I am Purple Rock John. You can even follow the other people that are on our staff. Purple Rock Matt, Purple Rock Emma, and Purple Rock Mark.
We live blog every week as it happens on our site. Very popular feature. Just come on in. It's a party. People comment. We have active commenters just a bit.
So many commenters. Don't be intimidated by that though. We've actually gotten some new ones in this off season. And I'm like, hey, where have you been? You're great. You should stick around.
Yeah, I mean, basically the qualifications to be, a commenter on our site is be awesome. If you can't, hang with that, then, maybe don't be. But yeah, I don't mean, the high pressure. Just don't be a jerk is the thing. And that's unique, amongst Survivor communities in some respects. You follow the podcast, through your favorite podcatchers, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And, are we still going to do the music thing?
Sure.
That's what it's like when a woman wants a baby.